Hi everyone. Good now, or good morning, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Miss Ebony Empress from London, and today on Hidden Gems Academy, I have a really fantastic guest for you. His name is Darren. I'll let him tell you more about himself, but he is an NLP, neuralistic, what's that, programmer? Or what is the
You're
P
a
for?
holistic programmer.
Yeah, programmer. And he's here to kind of just share his wisdom with me and with the world. So, welcome, Darren from London. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Oh, so how are you today? How are you doing?
I'm all right, I don't usually wake up at this sort of time because I do a lot of work with a lot of people in America, but it's interesting because I feel like I've got a whole different mindset to usual, and a different approach to the day. I'm usually going to sleep around about this time, so I've reversed my clock slowly over the last 48 hours. So I'm really here for it, and I'm in a different level of motivation where, like later on after this thing, I'm gonna go sit out in the wide world and do whatever it is normal people do. But I'm good. I'm motivated.
Well, I can understand that. I went to Egypt recently and came back, and then because of the delays, my time, although we only 2 hours difference, my time has been out for a week. And so, yeah, if your time is always out, I understand how that can feel. So, today, let's talk about NLP. What is NLP? Why did you decide to master in this area? What does it mean to you? What? Oh no, let's go back. Let's not do NLP straight away. Tell people about Darren. What is it that I need to know that I don't know about you? Share something with me that the world can benefit from.
I A long time ago, once upon a time, there was a little boy, and this little boy, he went to school. He was always taken to church by his mother, and his mother used to frequent the church about 7 days a week because she used to volunteer and all this sort of stuff. And this little boy, when he was learning to read at school, he went home, and his mother wasn't into books, but there was one book at home. There was only one book in the house, and that was a copy of the Bible. And actually there was a copy of the dictionary as well. So because he loved to read so passionately, he'd read the whole of the Christian Bible by the age of 6. He'd read the whole Bible back to front a couple of times. And then by the time he was 6, he said, "I want to be a vicar or a pastor when I grow up." Why am I talking in American accent? Anyway, so I decided when I was a little boy that I wanted to be a pastor, and I really, really enjoy speaking, and I really enjoy reading, and I really enjoy studying things academically. I mean, that's not a word I knew in the ghetto back then, but I didn't. That's where I got my academic prowess from reading that. But then
Mm.
one day, because life was very, really stressful. His mum picked him up from primary school, from elementary school, when he was 8 years old, and she took him outside the train station, and she left him there. And
Seriously?
oh, I didn't tell you that bit. Oh yeah, yeah. My mum left me outside the train station. Never saw her again for about a decade, ish. But yeah, I got abandoned outside the train station when I was 8 years old, and that's the beginning of that's the beginning of what's given me the who I am today.
Oh,
But,
wow.
yeah.
That's a really sad story.
Oh, look at the ending. It's all good. It's all good.
So, did you reunite with your mum?
Yeah, much later, I reunited with my mother, and yeah, and even deeper to end the story, I guess, that particular story, in about a month's time from now, me and my mother and my little sister that she had later on in life, we're all going away together on our first ever holiday in my entire life. We're going to Jamaica together. We're going back to her maternal roots, and I'm about to meet loads of long lost relatives who I didn't even know exist, and reunite with family and connect with whoever I am and wherever it is I'm from. I'm about to go on a journey to find myself in the hills of Jamaica, on a place that's not even on Google Maps. So that's a really positive ending to a mad.
Blessings. Blessings. Did she explain why she left you?
Um, yeah, but she didn't even really need to, but she was just extremely stressed. She was going through a lot. She was an immigrant, before she had me, she was an immigrant from Jamaica. She'd come over to England and she didn't receive much support. It was quite negative environment around her. She didn't receive much support from sort of family and friends and stuff. And she ended up being on government welfare. You're from Jamaica, you don't know nothing about government welfare. Where she comes from, that doesn't even exist. So now she's living on government welfare, and she's got this kid who's hyperactive, who's extremely intelligent and very boisterous. And what I mean, yeah, this little kid. One thing, what's he called? My dad wasn't really in my life. He was he was busy running around the world, like just being him. But the one piece of advice that my dad gave me, which might not have necessarily be so positive, when I was about 3, I only know that because it was before I could really think for myself, sort of age. So about 3, my dad was like, Darren, anytime anybody get on your nerves, punch them in them face. So that's the advice that a 3-year-old was given. So I went to school, and anyone that got, push in front of the queue in front of me or talk to me in a way that I don't like, 3, 4, 5 years old, I just punched you, because that's what daddy told me to do. And my mum was a little bit aggressive sometimes as well. And yeah, so I ended up going to special school for a while for kids that have just got issues. Do you know what I mean? But that was really, really good. It was actually really positive. So all these interesting things happen, and if you think about it too much, it sounds not so great. But it gave me some extra abilities. So there's only 1 or 2 downsides, but for the most part, like, I've become a very unique. I recognize this. So I've become a very unique human being. I've never met anyone who's really sort of like me in a number of ways. You know what I mean? So interesting start to life, but it's helped me. Yeah, a lot of that's helped me have an extreme passion for personal evolution, self-development, and shifting mindsets and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Wow. I have a couple of friends who've also been abandoned. So yeah, maybe I'm attracting abandoned abandonment. Just putting a light spin on it. But wow, that must have been challenging. And even though you were young, it would have definitely affected the way that you see the world, the way that you grow into the world, the way that you develop as a young person into the man that you are now. Um, okay, so NLP sounds like it could be a good thing. Was it a rescue for you? How did you get into the whole NLP world?
Well, the truth is, I actually got into NLP 2001 specifically, because I stumbled across a book called Successful Selling with NLP. And at that point in time, I understood. Yeah, actually, at that point in time, it was really, I don't know, that was law of attraction or what, but at that point in time, I needed to understand sales, because I just stepped into a volunteer role at a friend's failing business, where he needed somebody who was really, really good at sales. And I wasn't good at sales, or so I thought. I wasn't really, really great at sales, but he needed help. So I read this book cover to cover. And as I was getting really, really, really good at this book, I got very confident really, really quick at selling magazine advertising space for like £5 a time, and networking with all the right people in his industry. It was like the music industry at the time, the UK garage scene. And yeah, so I became very, very good really, really quick at just walking into buildings and be like, right, I'm going to sell you advertising space in a A5 magazine for like £5 or whatever it might be. I got very good at just approaching sponsors and organizations, saying I want 15 grand, 10 grand, 2 grand, all kind of grand. So with that confidence that gave me, that was a game changer for me. So for the next handful of years, I was literally just living out what I'd learned in that particular book. I was just like living by that religiously. And I read that book like it was the Bible. You understand? So get me. So the foundation is what it is. And finding that book in NLP, I knew how to read in a dedicated way, and apply things in a dedicated way. So I did that. Later on, I went on to do NLP practitioner course. I've done several of those now. I've done 4 or 5 NLP practitioner courses. I've done about maybe 3 master practitioner courses, and then I got to trainer level, pretty much one of the highest levels of NLP. And then after that, I got to a certain stage where I was like, "Sure, I need to stop trying to climb any ladders because there's nowhere else to really go." And then I became a speaker. So in 2018, I became one of the world's first black speakers in the field of NLP. And I became a speaker at the International NLP Conference in Britain, one of the biggest conferences in the world. Then I became a speaker at the Global NLP Summit, which is run out of India, and that's like one of the most powerful conferences in the world. And on all of these lineups, I was always the only black guy in all of the conferences that I was at, face to face and online, like the only black guy. Again, I wasn't doing this thinking about color or anything like that. But imagine going into a building and you're like, "Rah, where, what?
My people.
This is interesting." I thought that was really fascinating. But yeah, that's a quick and dirty overview of how I got into NLP.
Okay. So what are you doing with the NLP today? Is NLP a big part of your business? Are you still speaking? What are you doing with it now?
Um, NLP is life for me. It's life just as much as any other books that I've really read in that to that intensity. So I live this stuff, and in terms of my business, I teach neurolinguistic programming, and I teach mindset shifting stuff. So just in a quick nutshell, I mean, there's many ways to describe NLP, but in a nutshell, for the purpose of this conversation, neuro-linguistic programming. Neuro stands for neurology, the nervous system that controls and motivates one's body deep down. Linguistic is the language that we use, the words that we use, whether that's in our own heads or the stuff that we say out loud. And programming, for want of a better word, basically means the habits that you have, the consistent habits that you have. There's habits that we have that make it that our lives are not so positive, but we keep it up anyway because it almost just operates on autopilot. And then there's habits that we have that give us a better life. So what I do is I help people shift the structure of their nervous system by helping them shift the linguistics in their mind and the linguistics that they say out loud. And I help people to formulate new habits of thinking and behavior and speaking that help people to be more successful in absolutely any domain, whether that's business or personal life or whatever it might be. So I teach people how to do this. I mainly focus on teaching people who need it as a part of their profession. I try not to teach people that just want to do it just for the fun of it for a bunch of reasons. But I teach coaches, I teach management consultants. Some of my clients are senior management at gigantic corporations, heads of finance, directors of organizations, leaders, people that are leaders in some way, and they've got to lead people to victory, lead people to glory, whether that's as a coach or a manager or a business owner or any of these sorts of things. So yeah, I teach people how to do that. So that's my main business at the moment. And I've slipped into, in the last handful of months, I've slipped into being a business coach. And a business coach helping people set up online businesses or just get ahead in the game so they can focus on business. And my customers are from all around the world, like Pinky in the Brain, World Takeover. I mean, my customers are from America, Australia, Africa, Jamaica, India, Bangladesh, Denmark, soon to be Sweden, Philippines, China. I mean, so every single continent on this planet. If you're about this life, about changing, transforming, evolving, I'm here for it.
Oh, big kudos to you. I'm literally here going, I'm not worthy, Darren. Yeah, I'm not worthy. It's amazing. It's amazing what you have done and the shifts you must have made personally to be able to do that work. Because I know people who, I've got friends who talk about NLP. I did an NLP course. Yeah, I know NLP. There ain't no shift there. There ain't no shift. Literally, they're still doing the same thing they were doing 10 years ago.
Well, let me tell you something. Right. So NLP's got these different levels: practitioner, master practitioner,
Right.
right? If somebody's done a practitioner course and a master practitioner course, pretty much all they've learned is how to do techniques. All they've learned is how to say close your eyes and change this and change that. Have you changed? Have you changed? No. Okay, let me do another technique. Oh, have you changed? Have you changed? And they might learn a couple of techniques for doing on themselves, the techniques from doing other people, and they'll learn some strategies and they'll learn some coaching techniques, and that's all you learn. Okay. But then when you get to the higher levels of NLP, you start learning about how to apply some more deep stuff. When you start learning about something called modeling and you learn how to use NLP in training, that's when you're really at a whole next level. So the thing that mainly interests me about NLP is this concept of NLP modeling. And all that basically means is modeling is NLP modeling is you find somebody who's excellent at something that you want to be excellent. They've got some kind of skill that you want to have, and you study them. You study them objectively. You study their mindset. You study their behavior. You study anything that you notice while being in a state of absolute just reverie, where you just like paying attention, not trying to make meaning of anything. And after you study their mindset, you figure out what's the difference that makes the difference, and you take whatever it is you need to take into yourself, and then you become even more amazing because you've taken on that trait. Now, imagine as a youth, I and growing up after 8 years after I separated from my mum and that, I needed role models. Okay, so way before I found NLP, I've always been fascinated by anyone that's got skills or abilities that I didn't have as a kid that I could use as role models in order to build myself. So I've built my own mindset. So when I found NLP and I found out that it was about this thing called modeling and that's about studying excellence, I was like, oh, that's what I've been doing since I was a tiny little boy. Boom. So I click with NLP like that. So my take on NLP is hardcore focused on the modeling aspect, because it's through the modeling that the techniques were developed. The techniques are an afterthought. So the people that have studied NLP and only learned NLP techniques are missing a massive trick on that modeling piece. So I'm really up there with the philosophical part and the modeling part, if that makes sense. And it really sits with who I am at my very core. It's just about striving for excellence and constant personal evolution. You know what I mean?
Oh, well, wow. I'm learning a lot from you today. What I've learned is the modeling does work, because I think when I look at my life, I have done a lot of modeling from other people. Really, the people that I meet, I'm always looking at, what can I learn from you? What are you doing that I'm not doing? How are you doing this? How are you achieving that? How have you achieved that? Would I need to know more about what you have so I can make my stuff stronger? So I just realized that actually I've never done an NLP course, never been on it, never been attracted to NLP in any way. Sometimes maybe because the people I know who've done it are not a good representation, or as you say, maybe they only, they only demonstrate aspects of that learning. And I think, yeah, when you go to the deeper science of anything anyway, it goes to a different level. It's a different shift, isn't it? Completely. So I'm impressed by that. Yeah. Are you doing work with young people?
Um, I have done. What's it called? Most of my career for the last 10 years, I've been working with different varieties of different types of vulnerable people. And one of those vulnerable groups is I used to teach. So what was I? I was an English teacher and a maths teacher. And I also taught employability skills and retail and customer service and all these sorts of things. And I was mainly working with young people 14 to 19, and these were on government funded programs. So I worked with a lot of young people, and usually when I get those kind of roles, I've usually worked in areas of the UK where young people are at their most vulnerable in terms of gang violence and drugs and living in extreme poverty and that sort of stuff. So most of the organizations that I've worked with have dropped me into those kinds of areas because they need somebody like me, a black male who has been there and understands the street mentality and street life and can fully relate to these young people, and at the same time I also understand the shift and the change that's needed to fit in more with the British system, and I can switch between street talk, Jamaican talk, and straight up British English talk to a certain level of excellence. So somebody like me is very unique. I've done loads and loads of work with young people. These days I'm not specifically working with young people, but anytime I encounter a young person of any age, from small child to late teens or whatever, Even if it's only a few seconds that I've got to say something, I always do my best to say something that is going to stick with that young person for the rest of their life. That's why I get
Mm.
my hypnotic skills to just, yeah. I mean, sometimes I've only got 30 seconds to do something to impact a young person's life, and I'll just say something. You know what I mean? Mm.
Okay,
Usually
good.
other people, kids. Yeah.
Okay, well, that sounds like a great thing. And I thought of that because obviously your own childhood, you've learnt so much. So, yeah, I'm sure you can relate to young people, not just abandoned young people, but young people who may be, challenged in so many different ways to
Mm.
live differently. Um, One of the things that I recognize from the work that I do, but also the whole thing of young people in society is that a lot of people at the moment are struggling with identity. Who am I? What's my place here? What was I brought here to do? What is my purpose and what is it that I want to leave when I go away? When I get on that big ship and there's no longer the breath in the body. Um, how do you support people around that? Is that an area, is that something that you do in your NLP? Can NLP address that?
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I've got to that certain level of mastery around NLP, but also I should mention as well, when I say that I'm an NLP practitioner, master trainer, it's actually quite. I say that for ease of conversation because I don't want to confuse nobody. But what's it called? After doing NLP, about 3 years after doing NLP, I decided I wanted to go deeper in terms of understanding the human psyche and understanding change and psychology and all these sorts of things. So I went and studied counseling and counseling skills. So I'm very proficient in person-centered counseling, cognitive behavioral therapy, and psychodynamic Freudian type psychological counseling. Then
Yeah.
after that, I decided that I don't really want to be a counselor because in order to learn counseling, you've got to go through a period of madness yourself. And then you got to become mad because you got to think like mad people that invented these things. I'm sorry, I never said it like this before, but it's for real. You got to learn how to think like Freud. Like every woman wants their father's private parts, and every man wants to sleep with their mother. And I'm like, oh, what kind of thing this? No, so I'm learning all these beliefs as a counselor. I'm like, so what? In order to help people, I've got to hold these kind of mad things in my mind, and there's several other things as well. But there's certain things that I learned in counseling that helped me to really break down for myself what the issues are, what the real issues are for me. So I applied a lot of the stuff that I learned to myself. And then a year later, I wasn't done yet, and I went and done a 4 year psychology degree at Birkbeck University of London here in England. And while I was at university, I remember thinking with my sort of Jamaican mentality, I remember thinking, oh well, and I'm at university. Isn't this the place where people learn stuff for years and they
Yeah.
come out with all this stuff that they learned and they get a job that's unconnected to anything that they studied? And I was like,
Yeah.
no, that don't make no sense to me. No, man. And I was thinking, how do I go to university, learn all the depth of stuff that they're going to teach me, and make sure that I get skills from the situation. So within about a month or something of being at university, I became the president of all of the psychology students. I became the president of the Psychological Society of Birkbeck University, the officer for the School of Sciences, the vice chair for the Student Union Council. I became a voting member on the academic board of the university, where my vote and my hand had power to move the direction of the university and its direction a bit. So I do believe I'm the most powerful student that a really powerful university ever had, and I did that because I had the intention to do that. So again, NLP, yes, it helped to be the foundation for a lot of for how to learn quickly and all this sort of stuff. But I went and studied all these different types of psychology to really to bring it together. And again, NLP is about modeling. So I modeled the lecturers and the professors, which is why I never used, like, 7 years ago, whatever, I didn't speak as fluently as I do now about things. Didn't even have that kind of confidence. But after listening to modeling certain professors, lecturers, teachers, speakers, vicars, singers, powerful people, here I am. You know what I mean? So boom. So NLP was the foundation, but I built on that, and I didn't rely on that as the one and only thing, if that makes sense. I just love NLP because it gives me a framework and words to use that help me to describe certain things. It's just really useful.
Well, maybe I should try it. We share the Birkbeck University experience. only that I studied psychosocial science, which is not psychology.
Well, that's where I did my counselling at Birkbeck in the psychosocial sciences department. We were in the same department.
Yeah, we're a different element, but the same thing as you. I had that offer to go and do counseling,
Mm.
and I was like, no. I started doing the whole fraud thing. I was like, that does not. I call him fraud. Like I was like, literally, this is fraud. I can't. So sorry to anyone who's listening who thinks that's a great theorist, but I actually was like, I can't see how that relates to real life. But anyway, that's just a perspective,
Mm.
but that maybe we share, and it's quite interesting. Um, but yeah, that journey is an interesting one. The whole learning, the academia. Because I went back to academics quite late. I'd be, mature student, all the kids in my class, but related totally to them and loved it. But I wanted to ask you about, your journey now in terms of business. So you said you have all these business clients from all around the world. And so just tell us a bit about how that works in terms of like how you built yourself up. I know you've got the NLP and the thought and whatever. And a lot of people do personal development and they get the mindset, but they can't make the action happen. So there is this gap between mindset and action, and some people have not brought the two together. So, for example, I met a friend who had been doing Tony Robbins courses for something like about 5 years or more. And he had a million CDs in a room, probably could fill the room with CDs of things he had been given and different learning paths he'd gone on.
Mm.
And yet he couldn't transform that into business sense and make meaning out of it, which could really get him to this 6-figure business or a 7 or 8, you know. So how has that happened for you?
Right. So there's a mindset piece, as you quite rightly say. Yeah, I can do it. I can do it. Yeah, 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 yeah. Getting all jazzed up. Tony Robbins is a master NLP trainer. So it's all the same stuff. People learn that mindset piece and the techniques to change your mind and pump and anchor things into your fist and pinch your all that mindset stuff. But the one of the things that's made me being able to get good at the business stuff is um having a positive attitude towards learning.
Yeah.
Learning. So yeah, mindset is one thing, but you need to have a mindset around learning. People have this mindset about jazzing themselves up in the morning, but if you ain't got a mindset around the right mindset around learning, that and you haven't got a strategy for how to do learning purposefully, you're gonna get stuck. See, so there's things that I know. There's things that I know, and that, like, yeah, there's things that I know around marketing and business management strategy. While I was at university at Birkbeck, I got bored of my own degree because I felt it was just really easy for me. So I started making friends with people that were studying business management in the management department of the university. Couple of ladies that I met over there, and a couple of guys and whatnot. So I started befriending them, and then say, yes, what are you learning about? Then I learned really quickly that things that people are learning on a business degree is nowhere near as difficult as learning stuff on a psychology degree. So I started reading their slides, their essay questions, their stuff, and then I started realizing that, oh, okay, so this is some application of my psychological stuff. All right. So then I took a passion about that, and then I started using my attitude towards learning, and I dived into that subject. Next thing you know, I'm helping people pass their business degrees while I'm doing my psychology degree. I made friends with people in the law department, started studying their thing, and I was like, oh, this is completely different from psychology and business. So I started learning about law. So now I read law just for the fun of it. Anytime something happens in the world here in the UK, boom, I'm reading the law. You know what I mean? So it's my attitude towards learning. Now, transposing that into the real world, because obviously not everyone's going to jump on the academic thing. When you get into business, so right now, I think more than ever, right now in the history of humanity, entrepreneurship is going to be a wild thing. A lot of people are going to want to step into this area, and you need a positive attitude towards learning. Why? Because you're going to need to learn about funnels. You're going to need to learn about automations. You're going to need to learn about business strategy. You're going to need to learn about branding. You're going to need to learn about marketing. You're going to need to learn about how to do lots of technological stuff online. You're going to need to learn when to realize there's something that you can't quite do. So you're going to need to learn how to hire other people and outsource certain things. There's some people that aren't very good with the internet. You know, you're not very good with the internet. You're going to need to find people who are excellent at that. However, even if you're hiring other people that are excellent at that, you need to learn bits and pieces about what the internet can do. Because if you learn about what it can do, then you'll know how to hire people and say, look, I know it can do this thing. I want you to do that. Okay. Because if you don't learn about what it can do, so even if you're somebody who's not that comfortable with the internet, if you don't learn about what it can do and what's possible and what's not, somebody's going to come along who does know and they're going to just con you. Simple. Like, and there's a trillion con artists doing this thing right now, you know. So you need to learn a little bit about what the internet can do and get a surface level of learning about it, no matter who you are or what you are or where you're at with phobia around the internet, and then outsource certain things or figure certain things out yourself and get comfortable around technology. So it's that learning piece. You've got to have a positive attitude towards learning, and that's something that I believe. That's something that NLP's got a lot in common with the core of who Darren's always been. That learning piece. If there's something that I don't know how to do, I need to learn it real fast. If same thing with that, not just the technology stuff, money. People who have been an employee all their lives aren't even ready for this life. Yeah, you got to have a different attitude towards money. You got to have and you got to learn fast. And learning how to really value yourself and value what you do. You got to have a different mindset and learn real quick about self-motivation. You know, when you go to a job, you've got somebody else saying, get it done by this time, or else you're going to lose your job. And that external motivation becomes how you operate in the world. So when you become an entrepreneur or whatever in business, you have to install your own inner manager. Get out of bed, get it done. And it's very easy to ignore your inner manager because your inner manager is also you. So you've got to program yourself and create habits to create an internal manager that is really just, it kicks into gear, like whenever, whatever. And you've got to create an environment that does it. So it's that mindset piece. Yeah, definitely. It's that mindset around learning, not just the mindset around having the right state to get up in the morning. I hope that makes sense.
No, that makes total sense because I feel like that's me, right? I have been the employee for a long time, but I've always had a side hustle. I've always been doing side hustles. Um, they haven't quite, I've never quite gone to the other world of, making the side hustle my main hustle. But I've always had a side hustle. So whatever I'm doing, side hustle. But the learning thing is absolutely true because I didn't know how to design websites, but I did so much work on trying to set up my own thing without spending money that I learned how to create some sites, and my friends would be like, how did you do that? Like, how did you do that? Like, literally, I try and save myself money. That's why I'm doing stuff. And even now, I'm trying to, I've just tried to set up an academy. My academy is just almost in place, ready for the 1st of January. It's going live. But, interestingly, you were saying about people who have always been entrepreneurs. I've got a friend who's always been an entrepreneur. It's never been nothing different. I've always known him to have his own business. But the learning new things. Interestingly, when I met him 20 years ago, I was the person who knew nothing IT wise. He was like bounding. He knew everything that's going, every gadget. He had every gadget before the gadgets landed, right? He could tell you all about the perfect iPhone or whatever. So we met recently and now we will be talking and his knowledge is not that far from mine. Very little. I know practically all of the things, but it's been self-taught. So I think anybody you can self-teach yourself pretty much anything. I know about how to use YouTube effectively, listen to videos, talk to people that outsourced where I needed to outsource. But as well, my kids have been really great with that because they're like, I got my videos set up and they were like, Mom, where's the intro? Where's the outro? Where's this? Where's that? I'm like, I don't know where this is because I just wanted to do a video. Nah, it's more than that. And so that made me start learning. And I think you're absolutely right. The power of learning is, yeah, it's just out there. It's really good. So thank you so much for that. Are there any key tips you want to give? Because I don't want to keep you too long. I know you have a busy day ahead, even though it might have been a day of sleeping if we weren't talking. But I know you have a busy day ahead. so, so, so my question question is, do you have some final tips you want to give anyone who's struggling out there, struggling either with business, application to new knowledge, some of the things you mentioned, just feeling a little bit abandoned, not sure what they're going to do now, not really having that purpose, not being purposeful? What would you recommend? Any final tips?
I don't usually make guarantees or promises or anything like that to people, to people in general. But one thing I can promise everybody right now is there will be challenging and difficult times ahead. I promise you. There are corporate organizations and governments right now, whatever country you're in, that are already planning to make sure of it. You know, on the 3rd of, at the time of speaking, it's still 2022. On the 3rd of January, 2023, most of the big social media websites, you know, the ones owned by Facebook, so on and so forth, they're changing and pivoting completely. There's a lot of organizations right now that are already gearing up and getting ready for raising their prices. Governments right now are getting ready to raise energy prices just a fraction more. Budgets are changing left, right, and center. So things are going to get challenging. Because I know right now a lot of people are panicking. So the environment is going to keep becoming more harsh. So my tip and advice right now, piece of advice right now, is you need to get your mindset right. So the same said mindset of that we're saying that isn't really necessarily just the one for specific business. It's very, very useful right now to be very grounded and very focused right now. Focus on something.
Yeah.
You are going to go crazy if you're focused on the external world, like the price of things or people's attitudes or governments or celebrities. That's the worst distraction. What's going on with Kanye West right now? That's the worst
Who
thing.
cares?
Who cares? Who cares? But the problem is sometimes everyone around you cares, so you kind of fall like a sheep and you get involved. But right now, you need to be more focused. You need to go against the grain and focus on building you strong right now and having different beliefs to everybody else right now. If you've got the same beliefs as all of the people that are suffering right now, oh my God, everything's terrible. Oh my God, everything's more expensive. Oh my God. These kind of thoughts right now are like social memes. You know, those memes are little graphics that you get on social media that go viral. These are psychological memes. And that might be one of the most useful things that I say here now. Psychological memes are the things that everybody's saying that have gone viral through people's minds, worse than any virological virus. These psychological memes, oh my God, everything's too expensive. Oh my God, life is difficult. Oh my God. These thoughts are not useful. And it's like billions of people have these thoughts right now. You need to come away from those and come away from people and stay and protect your own mind. These days, when I leave my house and I'm amongst other people, I sort of imagine a sort of white light and a white garden fence around my mindset and me, so that when I'm amongst people and they said, "Oh, Darren, have you heard about the cost of living crisis?" And I'm like, "Yo, them kind of conversation, I don't really in it, you know." And I'll be like, "No, you know, I heard about what's going on in the latest episode of NCIS, that American TV program. Change the subject." When people start talking about what's wrong in the world, change the subject. When people start gossiping about other people, I mean, now and again, you need a friend to gossip with. But what's it called? When everybody around you is gossiping around about negativity, change the subject. When people around you are talking about everyone else or anything else that's nothing relevant to the direction you're going, change the subject. I consciously change all the subjects and as elegantly as possible without offending people. So, people would say to me, "Oh, did you hear what happened on TV?" I threw away my TV 10 years ago. That one throws people, and they're like, "What? Yeah, but something that is happening in the world." And I'm like, "Is it?" And they're like, "Yeah, haven't you seen it on Facebook?" And I sort of glanced, saw something, but I just kept on scrolling. You know, anything that it takes to keep away from it. Because right now, a lot of people are talking about cost of living crisis. There isn't a cost of living crisis for everybody. While everyone that I know is talking about lack of money and scarcity and da 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 da, I'm winning corporate contracts with some of the biggest companies in this country. I've just won 2 corporate contracts in the last week alone. One is with the biggest music retail organization in the country, maybe the world, I'm not sure. And another one is with a massive organization that I can't speak about because I've just signed a non-disclosure agreement that's got 11,000 employees. And they need me for a skill that I developed during the pandemic. Because when the pandemic lockdown happened, I just focused on video editing skills so I could master creating content for social media. And because I got these video editing skills that I really honed into and I learned, during the pandemic, I'm now being hired by corporate organizations to do that for them for certain things. You know what I mean? Because of my understanding of NLP and the concept of values and leadership and all this sort of stuff, I've been hired by another corporation to teach their senior management leadership skills because they can sense that there's something about me and the certain knowledges that I've got. And corporate organizations aren't going for a cost of living crisis. Corporate organizations have money and a line of credit. So if you really want to make money right now, why not go in the direction of where it's at? You know, have some confidence and go for a corporate organization. Figure out how to get corporate organization contracts. If you don't know how that works, either me or somebody like me who knows their stuff, ask question. You know what I mean? Figure it out. You know what I mean? Because there's a way of relating to corporates that's different of relating to human beings. You know what I mean? There is no cost of living crisis. Not for me anyway, because I choose to not have it like that. You know what I mean? So right now you need to have your mindset right and don't follow the herd, don't follow how other humans are operating. That's how the world kind of wants you to go at the moment. So yeah, mindset and staying focused and staying on it is everything. And even if you're going through struggling times right now, as they say in certain books and many people say it, this too shall pass.
Well, on that note, I'm going to say thank you so much, Darren, for the wisdom. I feel like I was in church, mate.
Dream come true. I became that pastor that Vicar.
You went there. But thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for getting up and sharing a conversation with me. Yeah, I wish you a lot of luck and blessings with everything that you are doing, and blessings for the journey ahead with your mum and your sister. I know that's going to be a beautiful reconciliation time for you with your family as well abroad that you don't know. So I did that journey earlier this year when I met all the cousins on my birthday, and it was amazing. So I'm sure you will have a wonderful experience, and stay safe. Thank you to everyone who's listening. Thank you for joining. Don't forget to like and subscribe this video. Yeah, I love it. Take care, everyone. Goodbye. Okay.